topic about trans issues because there's so much misinformation out there. And so I just want to show them that trans people are just ordinary people who want to be safe, loved and happy, just like everyone else. And that's it. That is it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's good, Dan, and thanks for God. And just on a side note, and we've got all that going on, and everyone's different, and we are all different as individuals. And I was talking about this the other day to Sandra, and I said, because about education, and it's nothing to do with trans, but it's a sort of similar vein. I'm dyslexic, people suffer with ADHD, we all learn different, and neurodiversity, I've been to a few conferences on that, is very evident, yet we don't talk about that. And we have a one-fits-all educational system, corporate life, way of being. If you can't spell, you see him as being. So I know it's nowhere near the same thing, but the similarities in the way people perceive people that are not normal as whatever normal is.
Whatever normal is.
Do you know what I mean? You're not normal because you're dyslexic. You're not normal because you're trans. You're not normal because you're gay or a lesbian and everything. And it's great to have you on. And we what was really, because people can go and check the previous podcast we didn't do a video, but it was a very nervous. And I'm not nervous today because we've met and I know you personally now, and it's great to have you in my circle of friends. That I was really nervous the first time you came to do the interview, and you did the interview in the studio, because we'd been connected through someone else, because I wasn't sure how to approach it. And what I also didn't want to do was put my big daft foot in it, say the wrong thing, and just does that make sense? Because it's a very sensitive subject. And what was also nervous about was when I opened the front door, I wasn't sure, because you was just starting off in your journey, who I hope this is the right terminology, who you was going to come as. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Well, I wasn't at that stage. I'd only just come out very publicly. For the viewers and the listeners, I came out via a coming out video, which I sent to all my photography and video clients, and I put on all my social media. It was a huge risk. It was a massive risk.
Yes.
But I'd only just come out, but I wasn't living full time as female, and I didn't live. Because that was it was April 2018 when I came out, and it wasn't until 2nd of September 2018 that I started living full time as female. So it was in that in-between stage. And it was funny because my old name was Martin, and I had, in that in-between stage, I had some people were calling me Martin, some people were calling me matey, some people were calling me Katie. Some people were calling me matey, and then I had a lot of, hello you. I had a lot of that going on. It was a very, very confusing time, so I can understand why you were a little bit nervous.
I was. I mean, when you come on, because we had a pre-chat, I was going to say, how you doing, mate? Not as a male thing, because I call my wife mate as well. That's
right.
That's sort of a Mancunian, I think, where I come from. Everybody's mate, and I call everybody. Could get me in trouble because I call everybody guys. So if I do my radio show, I go, "You're right, guys, everybody right." And that's not a sexual related thing. It's an all-encompassing. Come on, guys. Do you know what I mean? So I'm gonna have to change that. But
I think guys is okay when you're talking to a whole
plural
group of people. But I think mate. Generally, I don't like being called mate by men.
Yeah.
Because generally men don't tend to call women mate.
Yeah.
They call other men mates.
I do.
And other women can call other women mates, and that happens sometimes. It doesn't happen very often, but it happens sometimes. But it's very rare for men to call women mates. So I do have a bit of an issue when people call me mate.
I get that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, for me, I couldn't even remember your pre-name. I couldn't even remember that. I struggle with that, but I know as far as I know, I've only ever known you as Katie, and to me, you're Katie. Do you know what I mean? If anyone says anything, you're Katie, and that's it. So I won't call you anything else. And that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, and I spoke about it before. Is the whole, because I watched the thing with Grayson Perry, and this is where things can get confusing, because Grayson Perry, if you don't know, and wherever you're watching, go and check him out. An amazing artist who dresses wacky clothes. I mean, some of the wacky clothes he wears. And he did a video show when he was in the States, and he was actually gobsmacked when round the room there was all sorts of people from the trans community and other communities, and they all wanted to be called him, he, she, whatever. And he's like, oh my God, I can't even cut. He was struggling with it. And if you don't know it, and then he sometimes appears as Grayson.
So it's Claire is his alter ego, isn't it? And
and he's really. I'm not just saying that he's wacky because he rides motorcycles around and he does them all up. He's off the scale. He's very eccentric, very eccentric. Yeah. So I think that is sometimes for a lot of people, from what I've seen, that can be very confusing as well, and also people might not be comfortable with that sort of the terminology. So like I was saying to you before, I'd rather call someone by the name. You know, if it's Katie Neeves, it's Fred Bloggs, it's Joe Smith, and I think that can confuse people as well. What do you think?
Yeah, it's. I mean, certainly, if I'd sort of clear up the difference, I mean, with Grayson Perry, you know, he's a cross-dresser, and very happy as such, and it's great, and I think he's brilliant. He's a great character, and it's fantastic. And say his alter ego Claire is as you say very very wacky, and he tends to sort of dress as a sort of a little girl. It's that type type of look, isn't it?
Yes.
Bit sort of Alice in Wonderland type thing, but that's his thing, and that's fine, and that's great, and good luck to him. But he's not trans, and I think with trans people and particularly non-binary people as well, pronouns are very important, and I think the thing to do is, if you are confused about pronouns, the thing to do is ask what pronouns people want to use, because most trans and non-binary people like to be asked what pronouns to be used, because it shows that you care and that you've got a willingness to get it right. And so if my pronouns are she and her, but I've got lots of non-binary friends who they prefer they and them. Some people use Z and Z, but not that many. It tends to be they and them these days for non-binary people. And if I just explain about non-binary for people who don't understand, gender, we're brought up in this society, this very binary society. When we're born, we're assigned this sex at birth, and it's a binary choice: boy, girl, male, female, man, woman, pink, blue. It's just this very binary choice. But that is just about the sex characteristics and basically what the doctor or midwife can see between the legs of the baby. If they see something dangling there, okay, it's a boy. If they don't, it's a girl, and that's it. But there are a lot of intersex people. In fact, and this has obviously got nothing to do with trans, but this is a completely different thing. But with it, we're just talking about sex at the moment. It's just under 2% of babies are born as intersex, and so. But this is a very hidden thing because nobody goes around looking at other people's genitals. They don't know. And so, to put that in context, that's about the same number of people in the UK that have ginger hair. Right. Now, they're not necessarily the same people, okay, but it brings it into perspective. So that's talking about sex. But then, at that age, gender isn't taken into account at all, because gender is about how you feel in your head and your heart. It's who you are, and you just know. Because at that age, the baby's brain isn't developed enough anyway, and the baby can't speak anyway to let you know. So gender is not taken into account when you're given this label, and it's this label that's stuck on you at birth that causes all the problems. Because it's only as you get to about sort of 3 or 4 when you start getting a sense of who you really are, and it's just you just know. And for instance, the best way I can describe it is, are you left or right-handed, Kirk?
I'm right-handed, but I could quite easily have been left-handed because my brother's ambidextrous as well. He uses both hands, and my dad's left-handed. So I find myself doing certain things, and I've been quite happy doing stuff with my left hand. But as we were told in school most of the time, use your right hand, won't they?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, exactly. But for most people, they know that they're very definitely either left or right-handed, and it's something you just know, and you could sort of write pretty badly. I mean, you're obviously an exception because you're ambidextrous, but you could write sort of pretty badly with your other hand, and you could learn to do it, but it doesn't feel right. It feels right. Like for me, I'm right-handed, and it feels right to write with my right hand. But what happened with me was that I was socially conditioned as a man, as a boy, and as a man, and so it was effectively like me learning to write with my left hand. But now I'm actually being able to be the real me, and I'm writing with my right hand now.
Do you know what? That's I can feel that, and that's a real great way of describing it. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, and so pronouns are very important, and it when somebody uses your correct pronouns, it feels amazing. It really does, and it really validates you, and it just shows that they respect you for who you really are. And when they don't use your correct pronouns, and then it depends. If it's somebody who genuinely supports you, and you know that they absolutely get it, and they've just slipped up because they've known you for years, like if somebody who's known me for years as Martin calls me he or him, or slips up and calls me Martin, then I don't have a problem with that, because if they just do it from time to time, but they are genuinely supportive, that's absolutely fine. I get it. They're on a journey with this just as much as I am, but they're further back in the journey than I am. So I get it. But if someone does it continually and deliberately, then that's abuse, and then I won't tolerate that. Yeah. so I think there's a difference, and I think most trans people, we know the difference.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, and also on that point, then, of someone who's known you for a long time, it's not that they're being funny with you, but if they've called you a certain name for 20 years that they've known you, and they hear your voice or they see you or whatever, and because language, I'm into being language because I'm dyslexic, and language is made up of all sorts of things, and you have pictures in your head. So as soon as they hear that voice or they see you, they go, oh, and it drags that. It drags that information in, and that word comes out. So I can understand now that occurs on a genuine, time from time to time. And I get it. I get it. I do get it, and I understand. And none of us want to be abused, and one person might find something offensive, and whereas another person doesn't find that offensive, and that's the world we live in.
It's just about respect, really. And the thing you were mentioning about voice as well, it's interesting. I've been on a bit of a journey with my voice as well, because it's funny that I appreciate that I still sound like a bloke, even though I don't. Hopefully, you'll agree I don't look like a bloke.
No.
But I still got a fairly deep voice, and my voice has lightened a bit from how it used to be. It's funny, when you look back at my coming out video, my voice was quite a bit deeper then, and I did have some voice coaching. If I explain, with hormone therapy, for male to female trans people who are called trans women, that's who I am.
Yeah.
The hormones that we're on with the anti-androgens, and also the estrogen that we take, has absolutely no effect on our voices at all. Because we've already been through male puberty, our voices are broken, and so our voice boxes are sort of resonating at a much lower frequency, and so once they're broken, you can't unbreak them. So the only options are either an operation, which is risky and I don't fancy it, to be honest, or voice coaching. And I've had a bit of voice coaching, and I did do a bit of work on it, but I probably should have done more work on it. But I think because I do lots of public speaking, so I'm using my voice all the time, just as you are with what you're doing. It's very difficult, because I found that when I was doing the voice coaching, I slowed my whole speech down, and I was
not natural.
I was concentrating so much on how I was saying something rather than what I was saying, and it did sound unnatural. And I think with what both you and I are doing, it's important to come across naturally, because people can tell.
No,
it's not.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Because if I try and read, I do everything I do without any notes. No shot there, people say. Because if I start reading something, my brain's got to interpret that, twist it round, bring it back out again, and it just sounds very wooden. Whereas I'd rather make mistakes and be more natural and speak off and just speak as it flows through.
Exactly. And the interview that we did 3 years ago came across very naturally, because you had no notes. You just turn up and say, okay, well, what's your story then? And I just hit the ground running, and then it was just like a couple of mates just having a chat, really. Wasn't
Correct.
It was
correct.
Yeah?
And the other thing is, if you do that, and this is not by no way trying to be derogatory, but you could end up sounding a bit like Little Britain, couldn't you? Hello, do you know what I mean? I go, well, does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. And thing is, and when I was going through the the voice coaching. I only had 6 sessions of it, and I probably should have put more work in than I did, to be honest. And I probably will have some more at a later stage. But it's a huge risk to take, when you actually do start working on it, to actually try and change your voice, because what you don't want to do is try too hard and end up sounding like a parody of a woman, because it's the Little Britain thing of, oh, I'm a lady, it's all that sort of thing. And I think, oh, for goodness sake, you don't want that at all. So it's much better to do it as a gradual thing. But what's happened is that over time, I've actually got more comfortable with my own voice anyway. And it's sort of, well, the only time I don't like it is when sometimes if you get an echo, or say if you're on a Zoom call or something, or on the phone call, and you get an echo and you hear your own voice back, and I think, oh God, I do sound like a bloke. This sounds awful. but generally, I'm much more comfortable with it, because this whole journey is about authenticity, and I'm living my authentic life now, and this is my authentic voice.
It's your voice,
and I think people should just get to understand that some women have got deeper voices and some men have got higher voices. And I mean, with female to male transitioners, so trans men, their voices actually break with the testosterone that they have. So from that point of view, they're actually lucky. They actually have a much harder time surgically, but in terms of the voice, they have a much better time. But I've just sort of, I'm much more comfortable with it now than I was. So I've been on quite a journey with it, to be honest.
Yeah. That makes sense, and I agree with you. You should keep that. It needs to be natural. Whatever we do needs to be natural. Otherwise, people think it's fake. And
I think,
definitely.
I think I probably will still work on it, just at my own pace, just to make life easier for myself in circumstances. So, for instance, on a day-to-day basis, I don't get misgendered. When people see me and talk to me, I don't get misgendered at all. Never do. I'm very, very lucky. But on the phone, I get misgendered every day. I get called sir on the phone every day.
Will, and you can understand that, can't you? So you could,
it's annoying though.
I know. Yeah, I should imagine it is. It's annoying when you don't feel that like that. That's
exactly.
That's not you. Yeah, it's
very nice.
It's different.
And I think call centres. I think that's where trans awareness training needs to come in, with these call centres, that they're sort of they're taught, they're given these scripts, and they're taught that it's a height of politeness to call someone sir or madam. Well, actually, no, it's not.
Go on. Sorry.
Because what they're doing is they're whoever trains them and gives them these scripts are forcing these call handlers to guess someone's gender purely from the tone of their voice.
And it's wrong.
And so as a binary thing, and there are very many non-binary people about, and gender fluid as well. Actually, I didn't explain that, did I, about non-binary? That with gender, it's not binary. It's not male or female. Nobody's 100% male and 100% female. There's a whole spectrum, and we're all on the spectrum somewhere. We're all a mixture of male and female. It's just that most people who don't have issues or have never had issues with their gender, and whose gender identity matches their sex characteristics, they have never needed to look at whereabouts on that spectrum they sit. They just accept that they've been told they're a man or they're a woman, and they accept it, and that's it. So they think of themselves as binary. But we're all on that spectrum somewhere, and non-binary people sit roughly in the middle, and so they don't consider themselves either male or female, and they are just as valid as people who are further towards the extremes of the spectrum. And then you get some people who are gender fluid, who are roughly in the middle, but then sometimes feel that they're more male, and then sometimes feel that they're more female, and again, they are absolutely perfectly valid as well. And I think it's just about accepting that, and accepting that it's a perfectly natural way of being human. And it's the labels that are the problems.
Yeah. And there was something at the start of that, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I want to make a valid point about that. And I've he's gone. It was something he was talking about. I thought, oh yeah, I need to say that. I should have written it down, shouldn't I? Oh, that's annoying. Hopefully it'll come back to me later on. But yeah. Thanks for explaining that, because it is confusing. It's confusing for a lot of people. They don't understand, do they? They don't understand what you're going through, what you feel. So yeah. That was it about the call centres and the word sir. I don't like being called sir when I'm going to a garage or I get a phone call. I always say, don't call me sir, call me name's Kirk. Yeah. Or they'll go, it's Mr. Pickstone. I go, no, just please, we just call me Kirk. I don't want to be called Mr. Pickstone. I'm no different than you. I'm no better than you. Don't call me son. Don't call me Mr. Pickstone. Call me Kirk. My name's Kirk. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I prefer, to be honest. Not being called Kirk, but
yeah, well, I'd go against everything you are, really.
It certainly would.
yeah, but that's that. So yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting, and you made a point earlier on in the interview which was about self-awareness, and you were right. Babies do not. You put them in front of the mirror, they might smile, but they don't know that's them until they're a couple of years old. The way you can tell, you put a dot on the head, and if they start going like that, they're now aware that that's them in the mirror. That's a way of checking it out. And you said it's about, and this is a point, we spoke about this before, that of a comment that I received on Instagram about you coming on the show, me interviewing you, and it was like, well, it's not, because you'll see the logo there, people, cool to be trans, and the person says, no, it's not cool to be trans, it's a life choice, and it's not right that we're telling kids of 3 and 4 and we're twisting them type of thing. You know, the general stuff. And I thought that'd be a good point you've mentioned it earlier on, and I thought that'd be a good point to bring up and have a little chat about that.
I think the first myth to bust is that it's not a lifestyle choice. Nobody chooses to be trans. It's such a hard journey. My goodness, I didn't want to be trans. I mean, goodness me, I fought against it. I really did. I really didn't want to be trans, and no trans person ever chooses to be trans. It's just who you are. It's like someone chooses to be gay. Nobody chooses to be gay. It's just who you are, and it's just about accepting your real self and your authentic self. So it's something that it took me 48 years to actually come to accept it, and now I have. I feel so much happier. And I've lost count of the number of people who've told me that I look so much happier now as well, because it is the real me. It feels absolutely amazing. So to live my truth. So it's certainly it's not a lifestyle choice at all. If I had a choice, I would choose not to be trans, because I wouldn't have this fight on my hands and have to educate people and all the rest of it. So we would sort of clear that one up straight away. And the thing is that and the reason by my calling my business Cool to Be Trans is not because I'm sort of trying to say to people,
become trans, it's cool. Could become vegan and become
cool.
Trans.
Trying to persuade people to be trans. Goodness great. There's nothing in it for me to try and persuade them. I couldn't persuade anybody, because nobody chooses to be. I mean, that's and it's I don't care what anybody else is, and I do care that people are their authentic self, because that's the route to happiness, to be able to live your true life. So I do care about that. But no, the reason I had it's Cool to Be Trans was because so many trans people put so much pressure on themselves, as I said earlier, because they think that society won't accept them, and so they think that as soon as if they were to accept themselves as being trans, then their life would be over and it would be absolutely miserable. Well, I'm just sort of here to let them know, well, absolutely, that's not the case. That it is okay to be trans. It really is, and more than okay, it can actually be quite cool as well, because my world has just opened up since admitting to myself that I'm trans and coming out very publicly. I mean, I couldn't be more public if I tried, really. Could I?
Not really. There's everything you've done is for being very public, which is a credit to you, really. It's for being that brave.
And so that was the whole reason for calling it Cool to Be Trans. So I just felt that if I had some sort of logo and a name for the business that said it's okay to be trans, it just didn't sound.
Even that'd be wrong, wouldn't it? And you can.
It was a bit sort of. Okay, all right, it's a bit iffy, So, but I thought, no, it's something positive, and I was looking. It was one of those things like when you're looking through a name for a business, you look through Instagram and everything, and just see what names are taken. And there's one that I really liked. It was called Positively Trans. I thought that looks really good, but that was already taken. It wasn't by a business; it was just by a private person. Yeah. and I thought, I really like that one. And then I just did a brainstorm and came up with Cool to Be Trans, and it stuck really, and it seems to have gone down quite well, and I've got a lovely logo made up and everything.
It's smart, the logo, and we'll put the logo on. I like the logos, and
I love it,
and I understand someone's misread that. When I read that Cool to Be Trans, I read that as you're speaking to someone who feels the way that you felt, and basically what you're saying is, it's cool to be trans.
It's cool. It's okay.
And
I'm cool with it, and I want other people to be cool with it, and that's the whole reason behind it. So that's explaining that. And then in terms of talking about children, I think a lot of people talk about trans children who have never actually met a trans child.
Yeah.
And what I would say is don't speak about them until you actually know one and know the truth, because I know lots of trans children, and I've got lots of friends who've got trans children. And when you see them actually being able to live their truth, you see how much happy they are. I mean, so a countless occasions I spoke. I don't know. In fact, I've got a show that I do called Cool People, where I interview people who've been through, not just trans people. So there's a whole range of diverse people who've been through a tough journey, and you come out the other side and done amazing things. And in fact, the next guest on there, who I've already recorded the show, so it should be out in probably a week or so, something like that, is the mother of a teenage trans daughter, and she describes the journey. So it'd be well worth watching that, actually. But there's a little plug there, you see. Did you notice that?
I like it. I like it. You can always drop it on the bottom of this video, can't you? Or wherever it is, and just people can go and link to that, can't they?
Yeah, thank you. And she described, how her daughter previously, she thought it was her son, it was just a shadow of himself, and you have suicidal ideology and all sorts of stuff coming. It's just horrendous. And then and the parents usually then fight against it initially because they don't want it to happen. They don't want their child to be trans, but then once the parents actually come to accept, well, actually they are just so much happier being like this. You can see the difference. You really can, and you just get to know. It's like when did you know that you were a boy, Kirk? It was just, you didn't have to look at your genitals to know. You just know, and it's like the left or right-handed thing. You just know, and when you're being told that you've got to be something that you're not, it's awful. It's horrendous. It really is, and it's all about the pressure that society puts on people, and just through fear, to conforming to these labels, and we shouldn't. We should just accept people for who they really are.
Yeah, I get that, and I think going back to the question of the Instagram thing, I think the try and make out that we're in schools telling kids that they're being trans and whatnot. That's not the case, is it?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
But yeah, I appreciate that. I think
it's just about acceptance. That's all.
It's cool. But yeah, and going back to one of your points where you made, it was not an easy choice, and you're not doing it for a bit of a giggle, and it's not for fun, and it's tough. You was a very successful, and still are, you're a very successful photographer. You had a very successful business. So the easy option for you, I am surmising, is to have stayed as Martin and just and basically lived a life. But do you know what? That would have been easy from interacting with other people, but not easy for you internally, I believe.
It would have been awful. I was in turmoil. I was as I described previously in the interview. Yeah, I was in complete turmoil with it. And the thing is, my photography and video business was and still named after my old male name. It's called Martin Neeves Photography and Film.
That's what it was. Its voice had broken, and so it shall stay, I presume.
but the thing is that at that stage, it had been an established brand for 22 years, and I was, and actually still am, ranked second in the UK on Free Index for photographers, purely out of customer reviews, and and done lots of amazing things, got a great reputation and everything, and so I just felt that the brand was too strong to change, and so I felt that the only way to do it was just to come out very openly and very honestly and very publicly as being trans, and continue to do that, and so that's why I made the coming out video and everything, and it was such a huge risk. I remember my finger nervously hovering over the mouse, knowing that as soon as I make that click to make the video live, and Facebook was the first one, that my life would never be the same again. And I was so nervous because everything was riding on it. My whole reputation, my livelihood, everything rested on the reaction to that one video.
Yeah.
But I needn't have worried because, I was inundated with hundreds of messages of support. It was amazing. I felt so loved. I didn't do any work for 3 whole days because I was so busy replying to all the lovely messages that came in. It was incredible.
Yeah,
it really was.
That's really good.
And it's ironic now. Because of all the work that I've done with Cool to Be Trans and pretty much like you, Kirk, I'm a bit of a social media tart.
Yeah, I'm a social media tart, and I don't even mind people calling me that either.
No, I don't mind either. Yeah. and so. Because of that, I'm actually better known now as Katie than I ever was as Martin, even though I was quite well known as Martin before.
Yeah.
So I could actually change the name of the business to Katie Neeves Photography and Film if I wanted to now. And lots of people say that I should, but to be honest, I'm not going to, because it's part of my story. And to be honest, I'm quite unusual in the trans community in that I am comfortable talking about my old name. Most trans people actually call their old name their dead name, and they don't like talking about it or referring to it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to wipe out my previous 48 years of history. I'm very comfortable with my past, and I'm proud of who I was and what I stood for, and I'm proud of what I achieved as Martin. And so it's quite a nice way of keeping the name going, even though it's not my name anymore. So
I mean, it's everyone's choice. It's your own personal choice what you name your business as. But me, from the outside looking in, think, I think, keep it as that. I think it works. It's a name, innit? And what, in some respects, what isn't a name? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, Duggystone Radio. That's another thing, because it comes from the Duggystone, which is a whole different conversation. I think it represents what that brand is, what that brand still is. So, and as time, I think things have moved on. They not have moved as fast or as far on as people would want to, you personally and other people in the community. I think we are generally more accepting. I think there's more people accepting than, if you'd have gone back 10, 15 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Miles better. And
absolutely.
I think there's some really interesting things that's gone on. You've obviously got, is it a senator? I don't know if you call them senators. I don't get done for that. In the US. Just got Joe Biden just been appointed.
Absolutely.
And one of his team is transgender female.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. Yeah. That would have never happened under Trump, would it?
No, it wouldn't. And I mean, I got in hot water the other day, and I'll go over it because it was like one of your posts on one of your posts that was on there.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. The balloon went up. I put a grenade in. And it wasn't on in purpose. I was trying to. It's a bit like you coming on the show today. I wasn't sure when I say transgender female, or I should be do I say transgender was male? Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like do you know what I mean? She's coming on the show and she's transgender. So in some respects, in my head, I'm going, does that mean she's transgender into a man? Or anyway, that's another story. So. I saw that post about that individual being appointed into that role in one of the biggest. That is mega in one of the biggest, economic things in the world. And I watch a program called The Throwdown, which is pottery. My wife's a designer. She's a potter. She doesn't throw pots. She works in ceramics, and they've promoted the technician up to one of the presenters, which is fantastic. Yeah, he's great, great guy. And then, so they've replaced the technician, and I can't remember what her name is. And she comes in, and does all the things, and then starts to speak. And like yourself, got a deep voice. And I went, whoa, to Sandra, I went, well, I didn't realise I was being transgender. And I made that point very fumbly on your post by basically saying, I would never have guessed she used to be a he until she spoke, and then you could quite clearly tell that she's.
Oh, yeah, I think you said he. I never guessed he was a she, or she was a he.
Yeah,
I think that was the phrase
that was the grenade.
That was the offending phrase,
and that's why I want to cover the he/she thing, because I'm like, what do I? Do you know what I mean? And I just made that point, and that's not being me trying to be funny.
Yeah, you got jumped on, didn't you?
I did get jumped on. Very violently as well. No, I'm just joking.
The thing is that because I obviously I know you personally. I know that you're 100% supportive. So, but I could see why.
I see it as well. I
could see why the trans person who jumped on you sort of thought that you were being derogatory, because it was clumsy language, but it came from a good place. It just came from a place of not being educated in the issues.
Yeah, and basically, I was trying to be positive because the post was you would never see this in the UK, and I was saying actually I watched the throwdown and there's a person on there transgender. I probably should have mixed that bit out, but I was in that. What do I say? Do you know what I mean? And that's why I put that down. So I apologise for that. I wasn't intended to be derogatory.
But I think I sort of managed to be a bit of a peacekeeper between the two of you.
Yeah. No doubt we'll talk at some point, and she can rip me a new one, as it were. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's good stuff. It's good. There's another. We'll talk more about Cool to be Trans and what you're doing. There's another question I've got, which I don't know how to put this without it coming over really crap. I'm going to do it anyway because it's probably how a lot of people. We've got, when you start talking, and I never asked you about this before, you've got LGBT, and then it goes on, and there's more and more letters being added, and I'm like, when is this? Seriously, when is this going to stop? Because
it's alphabet soup, isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? I think it's more damaging to all those communities by keep including everything. Does that make sense? They should be. I don't know what. It's not up to me because it's not. And everyone will be offended. Well, I don't want to be called gay because I'm not gay. I'm a trans man or I'm a trans woman. I get all that, but when you've got all those letters, it's like, and I'm like, what's the next one going to be? What we're going to have next?
I think it is very confusing for people who's not in that community. I mean,
I get it. I get why you've all got that. I get why we've got all those individual letters. I totally get that.
I normally sort of say LGBTQIA plus because there's still a load more. And sometimes I just say LGBT plus. You know, that's not. But I quite like to put the QIA in there as well. But it's just all about being inclusive. That's all it is. I think there's just sort of strength in because we're all sort of oppressed minorities, if you like, and it's just a case of us all sort of standing together and just sort of saying, we're all part of this. And some people sort of say that trans people shouldn't be part of sort of the LGBT plus community because the rest of it is all about sexuality, and obviously with trans people it's about gender. But I think it's just that solidarity of all being together, and also many trans people are also gay or lesbian. I am myself. I'm a lesbian myself. So for me, it's interesting. With me, I've always been attracted to women. And I'm still attracted to women, but what's happened is that the label's changed. So but my sexuality has been the one constant in my life. So previously I was labelled as a heterosexual man. Now I'm labelled as a lesbian. Well, it feels no different to me. It feels exactly the same. Yeah. So, but that's just labels, isn't it?
I know it's just like but. I wanted to cover it because I think a lot of people see it, and I've seen it, and that's why I'm not. I am supportive of everyone, and I couldn't care less what colour someone is, what religion they are, what sexual preference they are, what they want to dress like. It doesn't bother me, I couldn't care less. I just honestly, you know what I mean. It doesn't bother me at all. But I struggle with remembering it all anyway. Yeah. Because I was like, well, you had another one on. I'm going to offend someone. Anyway, I think over time, what potentially happen is all those amalgamations of words or letters and what have you. I think they'll come under. I don't know. I might make it easier for the communities. And
maybe a rebranding exercise is needed.
It does.
Because maybe something like the Pride Society or something like that, or I don't know, something like that then knows that it's inclusive of all these people.
I get that because as soon as you see the rainbows, that's what you think, don't you?
it's all those letters, I think, that are the problem, because that's what causes the confusion, isn't it? So I think it's a branding and communication issue, really, isn't it?
It's not for me to change, and it's not for me to decide. It's not for me to decide what it should be. But
don't jump in on that one.
All I'm saying is, I think you and other people will come under unnecessary things because of that. That's my own personal view on it.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Hey, I didn't even say it because you was coming on today. I got dressed up, put my shirt and tie on, and everything.
Well, I was just going to mention that. I was so impressed that you put a tie.
Isn't it? I mean, I did go and get changed. I thought I've got to get changed. Katie's coming on, so my tie's straight and everything. You know what I mean? So.
Go on, loosen your tie. Go on, I dare you.
I know what happened, will it? So the kills. So are you still got the photography? Because I was a bit confused where you're still doing the photography, and you've got the Kills to be Trans. Are they two separate businesses, and are you tending to gravitate more towards the Kills to be Trans business than the other business?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I mean, I've still got, but it's funny, because on social media I just bang on about the trans stuff all the time. I never talk about photography anymore now. Lots of people say to me, "Oh, you're still doing photography?" Well, yeah, I am. But it's just that I'm not really promoting it. It's an established business. I've got my regular clients, and I do work, and often I pick up new work from people who recommend me to them, whatever. But with Call to be Trans, there's so much to be done there, and I just think there's so much potential there that that's what I'm really concentrating on promoting, and that's the business that's growing. So with Martin Neeves Photography and Film, it's not really growing. It's not, it's still doing stuff, and I'm absolutely passionate about getting the best quality pictures and videos that I produce. So that is absolutely 100% still there. But with Call to be Trans, there is just so much to be done. There's so much education that needs doing. And so that's why I've focused on that and sort of changed my profile in my LinkedIn profile on Facebook and all the rest of it, all the other social media, just to really talk about the trans stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. I thought that was the case, but I just thought I'd ask the question. And
I think at some stage it may well be that Call to be Trans. I think it might, to be honest, because it seems to be taking off. It's growing, definitely. and it could be that I end up not having any time to do any photography and video, and so I end up shutting that down. But I'm a long way off that at the moment.
I don't think you will. I think you'll still. Hey, everyone wants photographs, and why can't you bring that into your business with your Kill to be? You know what I mean? In the communities, there's no reason why you can't. In there.
Exactly.
So what does because we've been on nearly. We've done 45 minutes, nearly into the hour.
Yeah, I do talk a lot.
Yeah, no, just like me. And so, what does the future hold then? Where do you see things progressing over the next few years? Because obviously 3 years, loads has changed in 3 years. God knows what's going to happen in 3 years' time.
It's been massive, isn't it? I mean, I've been keynote speaker at conferences and done all sorts of stuff, and it's been incredible, and done interviews with television and national radio and stuff, and national newspapers and magazines, all sorts of stuff. But I tell you what, I would really like to do. I'd love to be a TV presenter, and I think it's something that I could do, to be honest. And I think there's room for an openly trans TV presenter, so somebody who's just they're visible, who's comfortable in their own skin, and who's trans. And I wouldn't need to be talking about trans issues at all, because I just think just by being visible, by being there and being completely happy in my own skin and using lots of humor as I do in my presentations and everything, just using lots of humor. But so I still got a deep voice. So that's what makes me visibly trans. But that would send such a strong message out, and with the mainstream media, they've got such a big reach that would do far more good than any amount of trans awareness training sessions I do.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think that possibly could happen as well. Like I was saying before, the throwdown, we've got trans female on there, and I don't see it being any issue. If you'd have said a few years ago that if you look at the diversity on TV now from what it was in the 80s, you've got people that are physically disabled in wheelchairs. There's a number of them in there. A lot. I know they say that the ethnic minorities are not, but they are. You look on the news, you've got newsreaders are from all different sort of cultures. I've got to be careful what I say there as well. I'm sorry, because if I say the wrong thing, but you've got black, you've got Asian, you've got female, you've got people. I saw there's a presenter does a show and physically deformed face and still presenting shows, and you think, well, yeah, the world is opening up to it, and I think
it is.
Like I said before, you'll get frustrated that it's not fast enough. But I think if you take a step back and look back, I think it's a lot further on, and quite rightly than it ever has in history, really. And if you go back not so long ago, you'd be put to prison if you actually came out as being gay. Do you know what I mean? It's
absolutely. Well, it was 1967 when being gay for men was legalized. So that was 2 years before I was born. Yeah. And it's crazy. You think, blimey, yeah. It's just unthinkable now, isn't it? Absolutely unthinkable.
Yeah. So I think yeah, like I say, you'll keep every community, everyone needs someone to fight for them, whether it's trans, dyslexia, whatever it is, racial. Someone needs one, and I think you're. I'm going to say. I think you're the good poster girl for this community.
Thank you.
I think
I just call myself a gobby trans woman.
Yeah, well, there you go, poster girl. But I think you are. I think because you come over, you're very well spoken, you're very knowledgeable. You're not coming over with a chip on your shoulder. I'm not saying people generally. Does that make sense? Because a lot of the time, I think your people will buy into what you're saying and believe you because of the way you come over. And I don't see any reason why you couldn't or shouldn't be on a TV show. So
thank you. That's what I'd like to do, and because I just do think that the key to this is doing it with a smile and using humour and bringing people along on the journey with me. If you just berate people and are just angry all the time, people just turn their backs. They just don't want to know.
They do. As soon as you almost said to me, as soon as you raise your voice, you've lost the argument. So before we wrap up, because I think we should, because we could sit here all day and chat.
I know.
No problem. Is there anything I've not asked you or you want to get over? I think you've covered virtually everything you would want to cover.
Yeah, probably the best. I mean, if you don't mind, just give me a bit of a plug. If they want to maybe have a look at my website.
That would have been the next question, but yeah, go on.
Sorry,
that's fine.
Yeah, it's cooltobetrans.co.uk, and that's the number 2 and the letter B in there. So it's cool and then number 2, letter B, and then trans.co.uk.
Brilliant. Well, I'll look for that, but if you send it me just in case, and I'll add it to, because this video will be going out on YouTube, and I'm going to create a blog. And I urge people out there. One reason why I want to do this was because I always say if you find that you've got a dyslexic son or child, daughter or whatever, or you're dyslexic yourself, don't let it feel like it's the end of the world. There's someone out there that's been through it, and I think I wanted to do this because 3 years on, I wanted to understand how you'd gone on, and it's amazing to see where you've got to, what you're doing. But I also want it to be a thing where people. I remember. You told me that you use Google and put in what is Martin or something like that.
Yeah, but what gender is Martin?
What gender is Martin Neeves?
Absolutely.
I remember.
I was in absolute turmoil.
I remember that from the last time we spoke. Mm-hmm. There will be someone sat there right now or in the future thinking a very, very similar thing. And
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I've supported so many people over these last 3 years who, because I have been quite a high profile, that have come to me and in that situation, and I've just been able to help them through it and just to give them a bit of support, and it's amazing. And then you just see them blossom, and it's fantastic. It's so rewarding. It really is.
So if you're out there and you've watched this, or if you listened to it, or you know someone who's going through a bit, go and speak to someone, like Katie, but I would suggest go and speak to Katie, because that can be someone that can empathise with you, help you along, answer any of your questions, because it must be pretty tough going through that internal struggle. So I thank you very much for coming on the show today again.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me on, Kirk. It's been lovely to see you again.
And you. I think you look really, really, really well. I think you look really well. And it'd be interesting to see or get you on again. And if there's any developments or anything, please feel free to share it with us.
I'd like to say, have you got any developments?
I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't like. No, I wasn't doing that. I was.
I'm winding you up, Kirk.
I know. I've got to be careful here. I was gesturing like that.
I'm winding you up, Kirk.
Oh God. Thanks.
I'll give you a heart attack now, won't I?
Yeah, I get slated now. Someone will. But yeah, if there's any future developments of anything with your business or what you're doing, please let us know. And on that note, I think we better end the interview, haven't we? So I've been talking to Katie Neeves, an absolutely amazing lady. Nice to know her. Great to have as a friend and great to have her on the show. So until next time, you stay safe. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Kirk.